And Brandon, moving right along, talking about now the Virginia Cavaliers. Welcome in Virginia fans into our ACC preview. If you are on YouTube, you're on podcast services around the world, thank you guys for sticking right along with us. And we're looking at the Virginia Cavaliers for this year, and we're going to get right into it. First thing that I asked you before we hit the record button, Brandon, what's the first thing you want to talk about? And you were like, we got to talk about this quarterback situation because this is a team, Bronco Mendenhall's boys, which Bronco Mendenhall, if there's ever a football name, it's the first name Bronco. Like, I just think of, like, that's my quarterback. Oh, what's his name? Bronco. Like, that's my quarterback out there. But Kurt Benkert was the quarterback for Virginia last year. He is no longer the quarterback. Se're going to go at Bryce Perkins this year, the former ASU quarterback who transferred to Virginia after spending the last season in junior college as a JUCO player. I want to ask you just right up front, what does this mean for Virginia? They're done with Burkhart. They're now in the Perkins era. Played some D1 football. It was on a D1 team. Played at the JUCO level last year. What do you think about Perkins coming into this year?
Well, you know what I think is really interesting is last year you had Benkert with over 3,000 yards, and they start 5-1. They lose their last 4 games. They go 6-7 last season. Mm-hmm. Not the best, obviously, but they weren't the worst. It helps when you got North Carolina in your conference, but he didn't fit the mold. He didn't fit the system that Bronco Mendenhall wants to run. He didn't fit it. Just like Ed
Orgeron, we're going to have a Bronco Mendenhall
I have no idea how
he
talks, but I would just assume that's how he talks. But
apparently, and this is off topic really quick because I brought up Ed Orgeron, I read a quote that apparently he said it was a big mistake when he hired Canada as his coordinator. And he was talking about that in the media days. Just thought I'd bring that up because I brought up Ed Orgeron. But go on about Bronco Mendenhall and how Burkhart didn't fit the system.
But he didn't. He didn't fit the system. Mm-hmm. And, they're looking more for the mobile dual threat quarterback, and that's exactly what Bryce Perkins has and what he is. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this season with Mendenhall being able to have, I don't want to say his guy, because I don't want to say, yep, Benkert, you sucked. He only gave us 3,000 yards. But it'll be interesting to see how this works out with Perkins being really seemingly the right fit for this Bronco Mendenhall offense, and see how he's able to run it and how effective he is with that, and where they might be able to go based off of his skills, his leadership, his ability. It's going to come down again to this offensive line. It's going to be a point of concern and certainly weakness here, I think, in 2018. Mm-hmm. But it is, and it almost always, as we talk about Ricky, it really comes down to the quarterback. Like you said, Arizona State a while back, he's a JUCO transfer now. He's coming in from junior college last season. Do you think that hurts him at all? Going from Arizona State, then going to junior college, now coming to Virginia. Do you think that year in junior college hurts him? Do you think it helps him? Do you think it's indifferent?
I'm going to say no, and the only reason why I say no is we're seeing a lot more guys do the whole JUCO kind of transfer, and the only reason why I say no is it all depends on how he fits in. If he's supposed to be such a good fit, I saw firsthand with Illinois when Tim Beckman brought in, that was his recruiting thing, is I'm going to bring in a ton of JUCO transfers. There were a couple of them, the ones that fit, where I'm like, wow, I really like this guy. Like a guy who is with the Green Bay Packers now in Geronimo Allison. He was the guy that came in. He was a JUCO transfer, really contributed to that team. So it just depends on, for me, whether or not you're a fit. Because usually the JUCO guys they're going to be better to me than the freshmen because at least they've had a taste of what some type of,
or at least
college
more prepared,
system. Yeah.
More prepared than the freshmen.
They know that they first off know the college schedule. They know what to expect from a college schedule. And I'm just talking about just day to day with balancing the classes and the school football college life that you will get. But really, it depends also how much of a fit for this team is. And for me, the thing I look at is the schedule. And of course, like I mentioned on the onside kick each and every week, I'm usually the guy out of all of us that is a schedule. Like, I'm a schedule monger. I look at the schedule, and that's where I kind of get everything. And for me, there's 2 sections of the season that I'm circling. I'm circling September 22nd to October 13th. And then I'm circling November 2nd to the end of the year. Because how I see this going down is first off, if you're expecting this team to start 5-1 again this season, good effing luck. And the reason why I say that is last year in their first 6 games, you had William and Mary, you had UConn, you had Boise State, you had Duke, and you had North Carolina. Those are 5 cupcake games for me. Then you had, UConn, UConn and Boise State, I disrespected you. They had 3 cupcake games, with Duke and North Carolina being 2 of those cupcake games. I am literally throwing shade on those teams on purpose. This year, Richmond,
couldn't tell.
That should be similar to William and Mary. Indiana again, but this one's on the road. I don't think they win that game. I think Indiana wins again. I'm actually excited for Indiana football. We'll get to them in about 2 weeks, I believe. Then you have the Ohio, which I think is a winnable game. That's like your UConn kind of opponent. Then you have the first stretch that I mentioned. Louisville, who, you lost last year. Yeah, I know they don't have Lamar Jackson. They're not the same team. But still, that team with the weapons it has, with Juwan Pass, that's not going to be an easy game to win. That's your first tough game. Then you play NC State, which I am sorry, you are losing that game.
Is that a new logo they gave to NC State there?
Yeah, it's a little dog head, or the little wolf pack head. You're talking about on ESPN on the standings page? Yeah, they're using the alternative logo with the wolf pack head with the little, it reminds me of the little Portillo's hat.
I don't think I like it, but that's
that
fine.
He has on. The schedule still has the NC State with the big S logo. But my point being, you're not going to win that game at NC State. Then you get Miami, good effing luck, you're not going to win that game either. Then you get 2 easy games. Duke, North Carolina, you get back on the winning track. So you're at 4 wins now in my mind. Louisville, a question. The next one's a question too, but I'm still putting it in that last 4. Pitt's going to be a question. That's a coin flip. Liberty should be a win. There you go. There's 5. Then the last 2, I don't think you win on the road at Georgia Tech. I don't think you win on the road in Blacksburg, Virginia. So for me, that's kind of where I see this team of, they're a 5-win team for sure for me. The question is, can they get a win against a Louisville? Can they get a win against a Pittsburgh? And can they upset one of these teams that I said, no way, you're not going to win? The answer for me in that question is who we talked about in Perkins. If he's a guy, comes into the system, is right for this team, elevates this team, then there's some of those like Georgia Tech. There's some of those like, I'll say even Georgia or Indiana. There's some of those where it's like, all right, maybe those are games now because of your quarterback being a right fit for your team.
I think that you're going to, again, going back to the quarterback, Mendenhall, he found success with this at BYU. That's how he got successful off of this type of system, the dual quarterback threat and the playing off of those skills, not just someone who's going to sit back in the pocket and wait for kind of the plays to come to him. He kind of makes the play himself. So I look for this offense, yes, to be different, but I think to be different in a positive way that will be successful for them. Now, it's going to be difficult, I think, for them to get back to their 6 wins, to repeating their 6 wins that they had last year. And because you went through the schedule and it's there's tough games. There's tough games on the schedule. You look at the offensive line and you look at this defensive line and you think, okay, there's rebuilding on both sides of those. There's transition on both sides of those. You lose a lot of good players on the defensive front, especially up front. The linebacker and the secondary positions are the pretty depth heavy, which is good, which is a good thing for you. So you have the most depth in the linebacking core and in the secondary core. Those are two really good spots. But is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough to be able to be solid? Is it going to be enough to, I guess, sustain some winning streaks and then not allow like a 4-game losing streak to end the season like you did last year?
Here's my question for you, though, is when it comes to the offense, I'm not really questioning this offense because really the only big change for me is putting Perkins in. Is it kind of, or what do you think about this team adding, they still have their 2 explosive playmakers in the receiving game with Joe Reed and then Olamide Zachariah? Zacchaeus. I said that wrong. You're usually the one that usually says names better than I do. And senior tight end Evan Butts. And
everyone can get that one right.
Yes. Well, I looked up. I'm like, was it Jake Butts or was it Jake Butt? It was only Jake Butt. There was no S on the end of his name. Thought they were related for a second. But Evan Butts is going to be a good jersey to have, just to have Butts on the back of your jersey.
We'll see that on Barstool.
Then they also return their workhorse running back in Jordan Ellis. Because they are returning so many pieces on offense, does that make this team like, all right, maybe this is a team that we can be confident in because we have so much returning on offense? Or is this going to be a team that, yeah, the offense is really good, and then what we'll get to in a second is, God, the defense lost a lot and took a step back. What do you think about kind of the bomb that I'm just throwing your way?
Well, I'm interested in that because this is a team that's been used to playing with a different type of quarterback style, different quarterback completely.
Now they got the right one that supposedly fits their team.
Well, but now they also, it's going to be, are they going to gel? Are they going to be on the same page, on the right page? And I'm not saying that they're, there's going to be, oh gosh, they're just not in the right spot at the right time, blah, blah, blah. But it's, whenever you put in a different scheme or a different style, you have to be wary of the fact that it may not necessarily work the way you want. Now, you like to think that it's going to work for Mendenhall because it worked for him when he was at BYU. And this is what he, I think, feels more comfortable with. And this is what he, I think, has had more success with. But will it end up being good for everyone else? You'd like to think the answer is yes, but not always. So I think that this defense is also going to have to get better, and they're going to have to figure things out up front because, like I said, the depth is in the back end with the linebackers and with the cornerbacks and the safeties, and they've got so many guys back there.
Yeah, that defensive line is a huge question mark.
Yeah, it is. It's a big question mark, and you wonder, okay, we just talked about a team in Duke, and they're supposed to have one of the best defensive line units that they've had ever, and now you're coming over here and just so many guys that they've lost, so many guys who were, all NCAA team this or team that, and they're losing them. And replacing those guys is always difficult. And making sure that you have somebody, okay, is he going to be as good as this guy? Is he going to have the same speed, footwork, all this kind of stuff? That's every time you're thinking, okay, how do I replace this? He had this great spin move. How do you replace that? Can you? That's the number one thing. And if they can't do that, they're going to find themselves hurting a little bit this season.
So here's the final question I have for you. For me, my final thought on Virginia is this is a team that I believe Perkins can come in and have success for this team. They have the weapons around him to be successful. However, overall, this team lost a lot of key pieces, especially seniors, which this team lost, a.k.a. you lose a lot of seniors or you lose a lot of leadership, which will end up hurting this team in the end. This is a team that went from 2 wins to 6 wins last year. if I look at the schedule right now, and let me pull it up because I had 2017 on my computer right now. Let me run through. Virginia's a win. Ohio's a win. Duke and North Carolina's a win. Liberty's a win. That's 5. With maybe 6 and 7 being Louisville and Pitt. Or Georgia Tech. So, to me, the trajectory that you were using, that kind of upcline that they were going in, you're not going to see that same kind of number. It's not going to be like, wow, we went from this. Now we went from 6 to 10. We went from 6 to a perfect season. For me, the optimistic part of it is if we just get 6 or 7 wins, if we can get maybe 1 win better than last year, but even if we're at 6 wins, that's a good season for us. We still get a bowl game. In your mind, what's a successful season for the Virginia Cavaliers? That's something that their fans can go, I am happy with this year.
I think if they could get back to 6, I think if they could get back to 6, I think that they'd be okay with that.
Okay.
But I think it's right, the way that I've looked at it. All I'm seeing is 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. When I look at their schedule, 5 or 6 wins.
You're even a little lower than I.
That's really what I'm looking. 5 or 6 wins is what I think.
Yeah, I think I said 5 was where I was at, 5 or 6. But yeah, the big thing is those 2 parts of the schedule that I circled, especially that first 3 where it's Louisville, NC State, Miami. It's like, oh my God, come on. Why do we get back to back to back right away? And the schedule's broken up a little bit differently than it was last year, where it could be, all right, we got a winning record here. We're 3-1. Oh, now we lost 3 straight. Ooh, but we won 2 straight. Now we're 1-3. Or ooh, we went 2-2 in the final 4 games. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Virginia fans, what are you thinking about your team this season? What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? Was there a player? Was there somebody that we did not mention that you're like, oh my God, how did you not mention this player?
There
Let us know
is.
what you think down below in that comment section.